Welcome to another Spot On Chat. I'm Rebecca Monet with Zorakle Profiles. We are a profiling tool that provides tools to franchisors and to franchise consultants that help facilitate a right fit between a franchisee and a franchise concept. With me today is my illustrious guest, Angela Cote. She is indeed a franchise growth catalyst. She has a background both as a franchisor and as a franchisee, which obviously comes in quite handy when acting as a franchise growth catalyst for franchise companies looking to create exponential growth twice as fast with half the effort, all while having fun. And of course, fun, I think, is kind of your middle name, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm so excited to be back here, Rebecca. Thanks for having me again.
Well, our last conversation had my wheels a-turning, right? And the conversation was about how you've stepped up into a leadership role during this coronavirus situation that we're all going through. But I guess what I want to know is was this instinctual? Are you a natural leader? I've always seen you come along franchisors, right? But this is a whole nother step. So I wanted to get a better idea what spurned this from a psychological background, whatever, that caused you to be this leader.
Because that's kind of your thing, right?
Like that's kind of my thing. I'm into digging into your head and your heart.
Love it. Well, first of all, and thank you for that. I don't think of myself as a lead. I'm starting to kind of feel that a little bit more, but I never really, I wouldn't have called myself a leader growing up or anything like that. And it's funny because my dad would say, he always said, "You're always the ringleader." And I'm like, I am? Like, so I guess maybe it was somewhat natural for me to sort of step up. And, but then I guess a big part of it really is my family. I come from a family of leaders, and I recently just did one of my podcasts. I interviewed myself.
Now that's smart.
Yeah, then you can say whatever you want. Yeah, no one's interrupting anything like that. But yeah, I was going to talk about, and I did talk about leadership, but I thought I should probably set the stage why I have some sort of credibility to even talk about that. So I had reflected on what that might be, and I thought, well, growing up with a dad who founded a company that eventually grew to almost 500 locations, that's pretty obvious that he had to be a good leader. I'm happy to come back in a minute if you want to talk about his leadership traits. But there was that, growing up, and he started in 1980. I was 5 years old. So, it's just in me, right? I've witnessed and observed and been there for that. My mom, though, is one of those like quiet leaders, and amazing person. I am ridiculously blessed to have the mother that I have. She's still one of my best friends. We talk all the time. We drink wine together over Zoom if we have to. But she helped my dad start the business and really get it off the ground. And at one point along the way, my parents separated, but she really used her gifts and talents to help people in the community. And she not only did she did some, did have a couple of paid jobs and things at different companies, but as much as she could, she always would do, get involved in projects and initiatives that the community was putting together. And it's to the point now, she's been retired for a number of years, but she is so well respected in her community and gets awards for this and that, and gets asked to sit on these high profile boards. And, I'm just so proud of her for what she's done. And not somebody that when you meet you would think, oh, leader, until you kind of hear her story and the way she approaches things. So it's my dad, business leader, my mom, and my dad has always been good in the community as well. But my mom's just like oozes, that community, giving back to the community and that leadership. And then there's a third person, if you want me to keep going.
I want to hear about the third person. I mean, I don't have one of these people in my life. So this is exciting that you have a wonderful foundation of three folks that highly influenced this skill. And leadership has many components to it, many skills underneath it. We just give it an umbrella name called leadership. But yeah, tell me about the third person. I'm curious.
Yeah, well, and the point of the three is that my dad was always obvious. I don't think I realized until the last few years of my life, how much of a leader my mom was. So like I say, quiet leader. My brother, on the other hand, is even more of a quiet leader in my mind. Like I didn't see it until recently, which going to sound funny when I tell why, but my brother's actually a Catholic priest.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and so he went to school for engineering, we call it university here, and some places
That's what I call it too.
yeah, college,
I'm
university.
Swiss, born and raised. So yeah.
Okay, so you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And so he did his degree in engineering. At the time, he wasn't, like, we were both raised Catholic, but he had lapsed from practicing his faith. And then he did his master's in engineering, and it was a very specialized project. And he always says, when he introduces me, he goes, "Yeah, she got the looks, and I got the brains."
Oh, how cute.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. Like,
I would take it as long as you can, Angela.
yeah, but I
Take
mean,
it.
great. I mean, does that mean I don't have any brains? Like, so anyway, so he then felt the calling to the priesthood. So he then did a 7-year seminary program, and then became a priest for a couple of years. And then the bishop of his diocese sent him to Rome to do a degree in canon law for 3 years. And he chose to do like the most high profile university there, not because of status or anything like that. He's definitely not status driven, but it was because he wanted the best education. And that one happened to be in Italian. So he had to learn
Oh
Italian.
my goodness.
So we always joke, because like, I'm like, Adam, I'm allowed to call him Adam. He's Father Adam, but I get to call him Adam, or brother Father Adam. But I'm like, Adam, like, can't you speak Italian? He's like, I kind of know, like, it's kind of weird, the Italian I know, because it's not like, useful every day. It's like the canon law. But then he also knows how to order at a restaurant and those kinds of things. And like, where
Oh.
but anyway, now he's back. He came back. He was the judicial vicar, which is like the lawyer for the diocese. And then he now is a pastor in his parish. And he actually posts his homilies and all that. And I listen to them as podcasts. And I'm like, he's an introvert. Like, he is a through and through introvert, but he's a leader. And it's like, I didn't realize how blessed I am to have grown up with, all this influence in my life. So,
and that's ironically a misconception a lot of folks have about leaders. There's an assumption they are extroverts, but many of the most powerful leaders are indeed more reflective, more introverts. They lead in different ways. There's many different ways to lead. Your mother is leading through a subtle hand, through her generous heart, through her great problem-solving skills, and her community mindedness and her genuineness, and people are following her because of that. And your dad is a decision maker and a trendsetter and a risk taker, and he is a Pied Piper. He's like, come this way, 500 franchisees, I'm going to show you how to have freedom, right? Another type of a leader. And then your brother is doing it from a spiritual perspective, from a heart perspective that says, I want to have an impact on the soul level, right? On the heavenly level. And that requires a whole different kind of understanding and leadership skills. And you seem to be kind of a mix of all three of those individuals, right? And I was just saying, maybe that's why I've noticed this stepping up of leadership. Maybe we're seeing some of dad coming out, where the more quiet Angela that I saw in the past was more the mom and the brother side. Now we're seeing dad saying, crises, decision has to be made, somebody's got to step up, so these three people had this massive influence on your life.
Yeah. And one other piece to that is, like, I grew up in a franchise system, but I didn't grow up in the franchise world. Like, it's not like I've been doing this my whole life and going to conferences and all these things. So I just really kind of came into this world about 4.5, 5 years ago. And so I sort of had to build my confidence about what I knew. Cause I'd sort of been like, I'd been with our stores and everything, our own franchises, but I hadn't been stimulated in a while. So that was like from the conservative pants to the pleather, bust up the pleather, which people could go watch that episode. But, I think also just the building of confidence and building the relationships that I've built and then meeting amazing people like you who encourage me. That's another thing that's so important in leadership, is to like really try to know who those people are and spend more time with those people. Because if they raise you up and help you be your best person, best self, that's huge for you.
Which is some of what you're doing with the round tables and
Totally.
this other concept, which is semi mastermind, but it's a step up from that. Is the connections are important because we do learn from each other. We push one another, and we're supported by one another. There's this importance of
Yeah.
being in relationship with like-minded people, even if our goals are slightly different because we're running different kinds of businesses. There's this importance of coming together like that.
Yeah, I think when we come together and we challenge each other to be better, like that it's that little bit of maybe compete comes out as leaders and franchisors, you know, they're all pretty driven. And I wanted to point out just before, when you were talking about introverts, I was, a flash thought I had was, it is interesting because I definitely, most of my clients are either they're a little bit introverted or a lot introverted, or they've just got they just need a little bit of kind of that boost, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you said that about like successful people. So yeah, like
it's very fascinating. It's also a misconception around salespeople. Introverts actually make much better salespeople of high ticket things. And I'm trying to think, Mr. Smith, I can't remember his first name, but he runs Southwest Airlines. If you ever met, I think it's Bob Smith, but anyway, suffice it to say, Mr. Smith is an introvert, unlike the original founder, right? And he's running this airline that is very successful and has great retention, but he's a introverted leader, as
I think
many.
it's because it's maybe more believable, you know? Like
Yeah.
I remember when back in our stores and we would sell, like that's another whole story for another day, but we were selling and we would have staff. Not everybody had to be, you know, outgoing and make jokes and all that to win people over. The quiet confidence was always really strong too. So I think that makes a lot of sense what you just said.
And introverts tend to be perceived as more authentic and more genuine, where extroverts have a perception of being a little puffed up or pretentious. Whether that's true or not, it's not important. It's all about perception. Perception is everything. And if our potential client sees us as pretentious, he also sees us as not trustworthy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Maybe that's why I go out of my way to try to be authentic and be as real as possible, so people don't think I'm just faking it or something, you know?
You're real, girl. You're real. All right. What a great conversation. Obviously, I want you back again when you have some time. And I so appreciate the time you've given me today, Angela. Thank you.
Well, I'm inspired by you, Rebecca, and these conversations bring so much energy. And yeah, I would do this all day if we could. It's fun.
I know. It is kind of fun, isn't it? Yeah. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Hey.